Hello, I'm your host, Darkwell Bled, and welcome to the first episode of Adelaide 6 Feet Down Under, or ASFIDU if you want a hard-to-pronounce acronym. As a short introduction, I studied history at the University of Adelaide, but mainly with a focus on the ancients or classics with a largely European lens, lots of Greco-Roman and not much South Australia. Since finishing uni, I've had a growing fascination with local history, especially focusing on the weird, morbid and spooky. My hometown of Adelaide has a long familiarity with these epithets, and in the 70s was often referred to, however wrongly, as the murder capital of the world. South Australia does, however, have to its name a great many famous murders and mysteries. The Beaumont Children, the Somerton Man, and the Family Murders are three that most die-hard fans of true crime and mystery have probably already come across. While I may get to those more famous cases someday, for now I'm going to focus on the more niche ones. I think every city has its weird tales, but thanks to the globalism of the internet, people mostly focus on a select few strange things that caught the attention of the world stage, often losing out on their smaller homegrown local legends. In that vein, since this episode is largely an introduction, I'm going to give just a morsel of a taste of what we're doing here, and talk about the nichest of the niche. And so, welcome to Adelaide 6 Feet Down Under. Today we talk about the 1853 Cow Witch. On the 1st of December 1853, German immigrant Godfrey Hoffmann, aged 28, was convicted and sentenced to 5 years hard labor for stabbing and beating his neighbor, Mary Ann Ressel, whom Hoffmann believed was bewitching his cattle. The assault took place at the assailant's house in Lyndoch Valley in the Barossa on the 5th of November, when the victim's 8-year-old daughter was sent to Hoffmann's house to borrow some butter. The butter was refused, and the daughter was sent home with instructions to send her mother over instead. On arrival, Mary Ann Ressel was accused by Hoffmann's wife of bewitching the cows, which the wife later claimed she had learned was happening from another neighbor named Richards. Gottfried Hoffmann, the attacker, then joined his wife and Ressel, and, taking Mary Ann by the hand, he chopped her across the arm with a long knife. The assault was not limited to that one cut, however, with the courtroom account going on to say that Hoffmann had stabbed her on the upper part of the arm, as well as the shoulder and over the spine, before going on to beat her with a stick and even pulled a gun on her. Rubbing his hands in her blood, Hoffmann then stated, "Now mine cow's all right," an action that appears to have been following a belief that washing your hands with the blood of a witch would break their spell. The law did not smile on these actions. Even in 1853, attacking a woman and washing your hands in their blood was not widely accepted. A statement made by the Crown Solicitor during the case expressed a hope that any such besottled ignorance that prevailed among our German fellow colonists on the subject of witchcraft must be taught that English law will not allow them to counteract charms or dissolve spells by feloniously shedding human blood or assaulting the Queen's subjects. The incident also resulted in several articles which both mocked those who held said beliefs and, as the South Australian Register commented, voiced their shock that such beliefs in witches still existed in an age of railroads, steamboats, and electric telegraphs. It seems undeniable that many of these articles approach the case with at least some degree of snobbery, classism, and xenophobia, with those who wrote the papers seizing on a chance to make fun of the German populace as an easy target. The likelihood that xenophobia may have been the driving force of several of these statements is betrayed by an Adelaide Times article, which took the chance to go on a rant about the poor education of Germans, while also taking shots at Lutheranism and its founder, Martin Luther himself. The fire of public discourse was then further flamed by yet another article by the Adelaide Times, supposedly prompted by their receiving a long letter from a German, which notes sarcastically that the letter's writer provides numerous instances of successful disenchantment of kin in Wolfenbüttel by witch blooding, the acknowledged virtues of a horseshoe, amongst other things. However, how authentic the existence of any such received letter is impossible to verify, as the letter is not credited or even presented in full. Despite this, it is at least a little difficult to believe the writer, who supposedly could only write to them in German, was literate enough in the English language to have known to write a rebuttal to their previous articles written in English in the first place. While no real letter from a German may have inspired the mocking article, the article itself would certainly go on to inspire an actual German to write in. Titled "The Schoolmaster Wanted," the December 10th Adelaide Times article had laid the blame of Hoffman's actions on his poor education and suggested that an investigation should be launched into the education of the German populace. Unsurprisingly, this elicited a response from one such German educator, with Reverend Teichelmann, who taught in the area, writing to the paper complaining that the article charged the earlier colonial instructors of your Teutonic fellow colonists with being indirectly guilty of the crime Godfrey Hoffman was tried for, and challenged the newspaper to present any evidence that such educators had put forward the idea of witchcraft. Undeterred, on the 16th of December, the paper made in a direct response further flippant remarks about uneducated Germans and Lutherans, and finished with the statement, "We cannot deny that we expressed a hope that more enlightened persons would be found to supersede teachers of the class who instructed Hoffman, and that hope we must repeat, with an expression of our regret that it should offend Mr. Teichelmann." Far from this being an end to the public discourse, by the 20th of December the incident had reached national attention, with Sydney's newspaper The Empire relating the story to its local readers, where they at length quote the December 2nd article by the South Australia Register. The heart of this quote is the hope that, by the time Godfrey Hoffman has served 5 years imprisonment with hard labour, his notions on the subject of witchcraft will in all probability have become very much clearer. Unfortunately, it would appear that the likelihood of this hard-learned lesson sinking in was pretty minimal, as an Adelaide Observer article to come out almost exactly 1 year later comments that Godfrey was pardoned by the then Governor of South Australia, Sir Henry Young. In what may have been a tradition for exiting governors, we are told that the pardoning was done a few days before His Excellency's departure from the colony. Seeing as Henry Young served as the Governor of South Australia until the 20th of December, 1854, and the article announcing the pardoning was published on the 30th, it may well be the case that pardoning Godfrey Hoffman was one of Henry Young's last actions before leaving office. Whatever the case may be, what is clear is that Godfrey Hoffman served only about 1 year of his 5-year sentence. The reason provided for the pardon in the newspaper was that Mr. Godfrey, apart from the act of superstitious violence, appeared to have borne a most irreproachable character. The article went on to note that there was also an appeal on his behalf from the inhabitants of Lyndoch Valley, and which was also signed by G.F. Angus Esquire, the member for Barossa. No mention of how Mary Ann Russell felt about this pardon was printed, but I think it's fairly safe to assume that her name did not appear on the petition. And with the pardoning done, the story faded into obscurity. You do occasionally see Mr. Godfrey Hoffman's name pop up in the newspapers subsequently, but it's mainly about land sales and regular boring farmer stuff. And so that's the story of the 1853 Adelaide Cow Witch, a bizarre saga in which a man attacks a woman and washes his hands in her blood, believing that she's bewitching cows, is subsequently arrested for it, then later pardoned by the governor because, apparently, aside from that one time he beat a woman with a stick, cut her and threatened her with a gun and then washed his hands with her blood, he's an alright dude. If you enjoyed this first episode of Adelaide 6 Feet Down Under and would like to hear more strange niche Adelaide history, then please like the video and subscribe to the channel. There will definitely be more episodes coming, but until then, I have been Darkwell Bled. Thanks for watching.